All right, guys, welcome in. We are on episode 3 of the Clinch Valley CrossFit podcast. So if you are listening on audio and not on video, you cannot see, but I have a very special guest with us here today. First guest into the podcast. This is Racheal Goins, longtime friend of mine, and also the owner-operator of her own fitness content on social media. Welcome into the podcast.
Thank you.
So awesome to have you here. Racheal and I both, Anderson County High School. We decided not to talk about what decade we graduated in. We were just discussing that. But Racheal has a really awesome story, and Racheal's doing really awesome things. And what we're trying to bring within this podcast is to talk about a different level of fitness and a different type of fitness that people can benefit from. And we realize that there are some barriers to entry to coming into CrossFit or coming into a gym. And Racheal sees that as well and does an awesome job of bringing great content and bringing in-home fitness and things people can do to kind of break down those barriers to entry. And we really want to talk mostly about her story and what she's doing with Hustle for Happy and rachgoins.fit, which are her social media pages. So again, welcome in. I'm going to shut up. Big thing is, what got you into fitness? Kind of got you to this point in the journey.
Well, I guess it's been about 6 years. So, and I don't have a great, glamorous story into fitness, but I've struggled with self-esteem and low body image my whole life. I don't know why, it just happened. But it didn't really manifest into anything until I got married at a young age and entered into an abusive marriage, which was not ideal for a 21-year-old, but it happened. And the thought of always having to be perfect and skinny and just presentable, even after having kids back to back early and had 2 daughters within 2.5 years. And that manifested into an eating disorder that came out of nowhere. I was surviving on diet pills and binge eating and just wasn't in a good place. I'm not for sure how many years it took to fix it, but it's been definitely a work in progress. And I just woke up one day and was like, crap, this isn't what I want my kids to see. I don't want them to look at their mom that never eats or that she looks in the mirror in disgust or just surviving on very little. So long story short, I left an abusive marriage and my sister has been in CrossFit for years and she's a beast. She's amazing.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, she does competition. She's amazing and an amazing person who has helped me throughout this whole journey. And for years she would say, Racheal, you would feel so much better if you would just take a break, go to the gym or go for a walk, get out of your own mind. And I would always say, my food is the only thing I can control. I can be as little as I want or as big as I want. And for me, that was the only control I had for years. And in my mind, restricting was the only way that I could be what I wanted to be. So that took time. And so Raven would send me workouts at home because at that time I was a single mom and living in an apartment with 3 kids. So every day I would just wake up and I would do, 30 minutes of a workout, burpees or sit-ups or push-ups, just something simple. And I immediately fell in love with my mind just being free. And it was the only time in years that my mind had nothing to think about. No expectations, no drama. I wasn't thinking about the bills being paid. My mind could just escape somewhere. And I often talk to God a lot when I'm working out. And I hope he avoids all my curse words and, all the things that happen when you're working out. But to me, I fell in love with that feeling, and I've continued that ever since, and I still work out at home because that works for me. I like being able to put my kids to bed and go downstairs and just kill it sometimes. Sometimes I don't. And then the nutrition part came later. My middle daughter was diagnosed with a chronic stomach condition, and it's super rare. Most kids grow out of it, but she has gastroparesis and IBS. So that really took me back to reality, and I had to sit down because her diet is super strict. I had to learn food labels and just what helped her and what didn't. So, and now I'm in love with how your body can change with just small alterations that you would never think about. And I really dive into the nutrition part of fitness, because I think that's a huge part of being healthy that people avoid because it's not easy.
Absolutely. Something I'd love to circle back to, and we talk so much about physical fitness and wellness, and we have this health and wellness continuum in nutrition, and it's really more of a physical thing. And you can look at someone who is overweight or someone who has all the risk factors for chronic disease, and you say that person needs to get in the gym and get healthy, or they're going to die, or they're going to have really bad, health problems.
Right.
But I've known you for a long time. We said we weren't going to talk about that. Right. I've known you for a long time. No one would have ever looked at you and said, she needs to go to the gym.
Right.
It was so much more of a mental thing for you.
Yes.
And I would just love to dive just deeper into that, just how perception is reality, right?
Right.
And the mental aspect and the mental health that you found just from getting into some type of fitness and using it as that mental release for you, I think it's just awesome.
Yeah, and I posted something this morning too from a lady I follow on Instagram too, and she said it great. I couldn't have said it better, but it talked about letting yourself be healthier mentally, emotionally, and physical is not a diet. That's a huge difference. There's a big difference in making yourself happy and healthy and not being a fitness model. There's a big difference. And I talk a lot to women who seek advice from me, and I'm forever grateful for those ladies because I learn more from them than I do myself most days. But a lot of them have had bad things happen, and they can't overcome those things because they run into someone, or their husband cheats, or something happens that sucks. Mm-hmm. There's no better word than that. Yeah. I mean, it just is what it is. And they binge eat, or they don't eat, or they're depressed, so they lay in bed, which causes weight gain. There's so many factors that people need to get healthy that has nothing to do with physical appearance.
Absolutely.
And I think that needs to be talked about a little bit more, just in a gym in itself too. Mm-hmm. I feel like that should be questions that you ask when people want to join. Is there anything that we can overcome that's going to help you physically later on? Absolutely.
Yeah. And the mental aspect of it is something that I think gets overlooked and doesn't get talked about enough.
Right.
I think it's getting better, but I think there's a lot more of situations like yours and things like you dealt with and things people are dealing with every day. There's an exponential amount more than what's actually being talked about.
Right.
And I hope that continues to grow and that people can continue to feel comfortable in that. I love that you're comfortable telling that story, because I know that can't be easy.
Right.
But I've seen you reach out and tell that story, and barring any kind of judgment or people, I'm sure you've had some negative, from that, but you're passionate about it and you're willing to, put yourself out there and tell that story. Right along that line, you made a post the other day I thought was so awesome. And once you kind of transition into fitness, anybody out there that's about to or has just transitioned into fitness, comparison starts so quickly.
Yes.
I'm guilty of it. I've been in this a long time, and I'm guilty of it. I compare myself to all the upper echelon CrossFit athletes, and I don't look like them or don't perform like them, and that comparison sets in.
Right.
And you made a great post about that, and talking about how your body's going to change. You're going to look differently at different times of day, or depending on, what you've got going on, and whether or not you're posing for an Instagram photo and you've had good lighting and professional photography done, or you're just hanging out around the house.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that post. That even resonated with me.
Yeah. And I feel like I have a hard time with that too, especially because my sister, I have a twin sister. We're identical in every way, except she is a beast. She looks amazing.
Saw her at
too.
Jackson Tan competition. She's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know where it came from either. She has a drive that's in a different aspect than mine, I guess. But I compare myself to her all the time. Mm-hmm. And she's constantly like, please don't do that. You're mentally messing yourself up all day long. And I had a lady the other day that was like, how did I weigh 5 pounds less yesterday? And I said, first of all, why were you on the scale yesterday and today?
Right.
So let's talk about that, because that's an obsession that you have got to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time, I did the same thing and beat myself up. And I said, but we need to talk about what did you eat yesterday? How much water did you have? What time of day did you weigh yourself? Like, there's so many factors that come into play with what you look like. And I beat myself up about it too. And I think all people just need to realize that we're all human and it changes. And we're not that lady on Instagram or that guy, on CrossFit Games that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something else too, was the, I saw a really cool post that was something like, your value is not the numerical value of your gravitational pull to the earth.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, your body weight is not how much you're worth.
Right.
And it's not, people put way too much emphasis on that. One of my best friends is 255 pounds. The guy's like 10% body fat. He's a monster, right? If you look at body weight, he's way overweight, but no, he's just a big old muscular guy.
Right.
We just put way too much value in that. The other thing that this kind of goes to as well is, you and I were talking about doing this podcast and about me bringing you on, and you said, I want to bring value to your audience, but, my audience is primarily female. And that's not something you've done by design, but
right.
That's just kind of who's gravitated towards your content. And something that we talked about, which is, guys are in the same spot. We just don't talk about it. Right? Like, guys we have body image issues. We think about this kind of stuff. We talk about this kind of stuff, but we would never come out and say it in public. I don't want to say would never, but most of the time won't come out. But I have gotten so much benefit from your content and your post on that kind of stuff, because it really is. It's something that both guys and girls deal with. So I think that's really good what you're doing with the content.
Good, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So the next thing I wanted to dive into was how and why you started your social media, which is hashtag hustleforhappy,
right.
and rachgoins.fit on Instagram,
yep.
hashtag hustleforhappy on Facebook. And you were talking too that you were doing a lot of stuff on your own personal social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
But those two platforms are the main platforms that you've kind of started with this fitness journey. And
right.
what got you started on that, and kind of the mission and vision behind that?
Well, about a year ago, I guess, I started noticing, or taking note, I guess, both my sisters have a CrossFit gym, and I feel like they always have a cheering squad. They always have somebody cheering them on, and I feel like Raven and Casey were both making such progress, and it was being noticed. Like, people were posting about it. There were videos. Raven was going to CrossFit competitions, and they were being recognized for something that wholeheartedly I was doing too, but nobody noticed, and it made me think about, there's probably more people out there who are doing this that aren't getting, not that you want to be noticed, but just being motivated by each other.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's what keeps Raven and Casey on track, is that they have constant reminders when they walk in, and their gym is like their family. They go on vacations together. They do all kinds of stuff together, and I was just liking that.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that there has to be more people out there that need help, that need motivation, and want to talk about stuff, because I would reach out to my sisters, and that would be my only platform, really. Especially when I first started out, I'd be like, what? I didn't know a banana had this many carbs. I'm counting, like, how could this be true?
Right.
So stuff like that, I feel like I really needed to merge the gap between, okay, I want to change my lifestyle, but where do I start? And I've had a really success rate with that, because I feel like those are questions that can, derail someone within minutes. Because I know myself, if I walked into the grocery store and I've made a decision today to do better and to eat healthier, or to go outside and walk for 20 minutes, if I walk in and I have no idea where to start, I'm going to quit before I even start. And that's just by design. I think that's human nature, is you get nervous and you get scared and you just stop. And I've spoke to a lot of people about CrossFit too. Like, they'll pull in the parking lot, but then they see other people doing something or working out, and they're like, well, I can't do that. So if we can merge the gap of people needing help and us reaching them before they ask for it, I think makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And that's something too, and I think that you're doing an amazing job with, is people have this misconception that they have to be fit to start CrossFit.
Right.
Which I compare it to, you don't have to be sober to start AA or a sobriety program, right?
Yes.
That's where you go to get the help that you need. But there are barriers to entry that we understand that no matter how motivated somebody is, there may be people out there that absolutely just cannot get to a CrossFit gym, cannot get to, be it because of kids, financial, job, anything like that. And what you're doing, even if it's just to start people out or to carry them the whole way through, you're breaking down those barriers to entry, because you have a lot of the same barriers, right? You want to talk a little to that? I mean, the kids, you've got full time.
I mean, I work full time and I have 5 kids. I'm married, so we have a home and a dog. You know, there's things that happen each day that could derail me even working out. By any stretch, I can make an excuse not to do that. And I think those are hard topics that people don't want to talk about. People don't want to say, my kids are driving me crazy today, or work was terrible. And those are things that they're going to drive to the gym and say, forget it. I'm not going in today because I suck and I want to go home. And, and those are things that people need to talk about, and we need to approach that you've had a bad day too, so, but I think people think that anyone who works out or eats better don't have bad days. Like, we don't, especially at a CrossFit gym, because y'all are like in amazing shape and you're doing great things. But I think those are barriers that people need to not think about. They need to quit being judgmental, and we need to just keep moving forward and making progress, whether it be at home or at the gym or mental. And I mean, I think we've talked about this too, but we've had people who say, well, how do you know anything about getting healthier when you've never been fat? Or
absolutely.
But I've been pregnant 3 times, so I get
absolutely.
like rebooting. And or a guy, I hear that all the time. Well, how can men get in shape so much faster than women? Why is that fair? I'm like, first of all, I don't know, but like
I don't know physical makeup, but
right, and I think we've talked about that. Like, people probably approach you and say, you have no idea what it's like.
I absolutely get that all the time. And I've had to go pull out pictures, and stuff from my old days, because I even forget to tell my story and to remind people. And I've had people say that to me. And that's, like the same we talked before with you, is like, nobody would ever look at you and say, you need to go to the gym, but it's different. It's completely different. And you do know struggles, even if it's not that it's extra weight or this or the other, it's the mental, and recovering from pregnancy, things like that, that you've had to go through. And you don't carry all 3 kids on your hip all the time. People don't see that. They don't know that about you. And you've had to break down those barriers, which is amazing. And that's one of the big things that when we talked about bringing in a guest for the podcast, I thought this is something value added. And we do know that we have a large female, followership on social media and stuff. But even male or female, any walk of life, figuring out that people struggle. I think some of the best workouts you've probably ever had were the days you didn't want to do it.
Oh yeah.
And I find that too. I walk in the gym some days and I just stare at that whiteboard and I go, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And some of the best workouts we've ever experienced and feel the best after, when you go in and you get through it on those days when you didn't want to do it, is for me some of the best days.
Yeah, I mean, that was me last night. I just didn't. I picked up my kids and they were all screaming the whole car ride home. And my first thought was, let's just go to Brewster's. Like, if I can make these kids stop crying, I can get an ice cream and we'll just all feel better. Like, and we didn't do that. We went home because they were crying, and I'm trying not to reward bad behavior. But we get home and my first thought was, please, Lord, let's just have like an easy night, and I'm going to bed at 7:30 when they go to bed. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And my middle one, the one that's sick normally, she's like, Mom, go put your shoes on. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, the treadmill's running. I'm like, okay, Cruz, I'll go. So I went down, I put them to bed and I went downstairs and I just looked in the mirror and I was like, just don't have it today. Like, I just don't. But I did it, and it was like literally the best workout I've had in probably 3 months.
That's awesome.
Like, and I don't know why. Like, I lifted more yesterday. I did more squats than I normally do. And I felt amazing. And I just wish that people could feel that and not just go home and get in bed. I don't want people to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Absolutely experienced that a ton of times. I know we all have. And I think that's when you need it the most, is when your body's just kind of fighting you mentally and physically. Is when we need it the most, and that's why we get the most out of it when we're done. So what kind of things are you doing with Hustle for Happy and the rachgoins.fit to provide fitness and nutritional awareness to your people, your followers?
Well, I try to post daily, at least either fitness related, so like an exercise that you can do at home that doesn't take a lot of effort, or, I mean, not a lot of effort, but it takes a lot of, I guess, initiative, because you don't need a ton of equipment. I always tell people, just get a yoga mat and some 5-pound dumbbells. Just start out. That's all you need. I post a lot about resistance bands because I think those help a lot, especially with stretching and flexibility. But then I'm also trying to post like food. I want people to understand that you can eat and still lose weight. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest thing, and it took me a long time. So I try to post a lot about like what I eat, because I eat all day long constantly. So I want people to know, hey, Racheal had this for lunch, or she had that for breakfast. And then if people reach out, I love sitting down with them and talking about goals and what food you like and what you don't like, or how you can substitute your sweet tea for something else. Or I have one lady who loves ice cream, which I do too. And just replacing that with frozen Greek yogurt or something else. So I try every day to post something, and hopefully that helps people too.
Absolutely. I love the nutritional post and the workout post that you've done. We have been doing some at-home workout, programming and stuff. We were talking about it earlier. It's not super easy to program for no equipment, but it's something that you're super passionate about and you've done a ton of. You were actually going to share a little bit of that with us later, but the content, and I think you're up to like almost 400 on the Hustle for Happy.
Yeah, I think it's like 378.
That's awesome.
I looked this morning.
That's awesome. I love it. We watch those numbers too, because we just want to reach as many people as possible. And I know that's something that you're super passionate about. So something else that I wanted to dive into, and something that you talk about a lot, I see on your page, is I think you struggled with it, and you kind of want to share that as well, which is kind of your whole thing. But making yourself a priority with 5 kids and with jobs and dogs and husband and all that kind of stuff, and I'm let you speak on that, because that's big.
Well, and I have a lot of people, not a lot, but I've had several people, just naysayers, just not nice, say that's a little selfish. It's a little selfish to take an hour out of your day when your kids just got home or your husband just walked in the door. And I always say, I'm sorry you feel that way, but it's not. It took me a long time to get to this point, and I'll kind of travel back to abuse, and I talk a lot about factors of that. And I think a lot of that is no self-esteem, and you do not put yourself first. Because 10 years ago I was in that situation, but right now it wouldn't stand for 3 seconds. And I think it's because I put myself first, and I've done that for the last 5 or 6 years. Because I want to be happy and I care about me. So, and I want other people to feel the same way. But I devote 1 hour a day out of probably 18 that I give to everyone else. I mean, we're up at 5:30. I'm fixing breakfast and packing special lunches and packing medications and doing all those things for my kids and my husband. And I don't think it's selfish to devote 1 hour out of the 18 that I devote to everyone else. And I think people have a hard time with that, especially working moms or working parents, because you've been away from your kids all day. So when you see them, you want to spend time with them. But I don't think that people understand that, especially a mom, if you're not happy, no one else is. And I know that. I mean, I've taken a couple breaks, take a week off and rejuvenate myself and not work out, and I'm absolutely miserable. And I can't stand myself, so I know my kids don't like me,
Right.
So I think that people need to understand that once you've devoted time to yourself, you're happier in every aspect of your life. Relationships, work, parenting, friendships. And I devote 2 hours on Sunday after church is mom time. Nobody comes in my kitchen. I don't want to be talked to. I crank 107.7 or whatever, and I food prep all of our stuff. which takes a little bit longer for me just because with my middle daughter, she has to have specific foods and all her medication has to be timed and labeled. And so I devote that time on Sunday, and honestly, it's probably the best 2 hours of my week. Like, I love it. I get it all done, and I think that people need to just take time for themselves. And I truly think that there's going to be less abuse, less eating disorders, binge eating, addiction, because in that hour I get to know me more than I have in years, and I think that's a huge factor in just being better altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a post the other day talking about, like, there's two different types of tired. You can need rest, and you can also just need quiet and peace.
Right.
And just time to, like, be in your own head a little bit and kind of work through things that you're thinking of.
Yeah.
Something else you talked to, this happens with me, and I'm sure you've experienced as well. If I don't do that hour or 2 hours or whatever, do that workout, my productivity level just goes in the tank.
Yes.
And you should see my screen time.
Right.
iPhone is throwing this screen time thing in your face now.
I know, it's terrible.
And oh my gosh, it is so eye-opening.
It is.
And I will make every excuse in the world some days that, I work out twice a day, whatever, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I will veg out, not work out. I feel miserable. I don't get anything else done.
Right.
I'm not any more valuable to my family, to my business. I don't have kids currently, but if I had kids, I'm sure I wouldn't be more valuable to them.
Right.
Taking that hour and getting that, either mental, physical, whatever, you're going to be more productive after you finish.
Yes, and I forgot to mention that too, but I feel like when I don't work out, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't feel good. And people always ask me, like, but I'm already tired. Like, I can't work out at night. I can't work out at 8 o'clock. That's when I get home. I'm exhausted. And I always say, if you will give me 7 days of just walking for 20 minutes, you will have more energy the next day that you've had in 10 years.
I won't have to ask you to walk on that 8th day. You'll
Right.
go do
You'll
it.
go do
You'll
it.
start looking forward to doing
Right.
it. I think that's a habit too. I think it takes like 8 days to, like, create a
Yeah.
habit. I do that a lot with nutrition. Is telling people, look, if you look at this as a forever thing,
Right.
you're overwhelm yourself.
Yes.
It takes about 8 days to really build a habit, get off some of the sugar cravings, start replacing bad things with good things. And that's awesome. 7 days. That's because I think on the 8th day you're going to go walking and you're going to be at work and you're going to go, I can't wait to get home and walk.
Yeah.
Because you just know how much better you feel.
And the same thing with diet too. I know, Christmas, we all probably ate terrible, and our grandparents are cooking mashed potatoes and cornbread and all the comfort foods that I grew up with. And I know just eating that day, which was phenomenal when I was eating it, but I felt terrible for 2 days.
Yeah, instantly.
And I tell people all the time, I'm like, you're going to be so surprised how much better, like, your gut feels, or your acne, or just feeling better, just having more energy and not waking up starving because you've eaten sufficient things all day, and just cutting out that fast food or that grease, you're going to feel so much better.
Absolutely.
And I don't think people understand that.
The thing I need after that is like 16 to 24 hours of just not eating.
Right.
Like I need a complete detox when I eat that way, holidays or whatever. I
Yeah.
wake up the next morning, I won't be hungry. So it really sets me back for several days when I eat that way.
Yeah.
But it is so amazing if you clean up your nutrition and then eat one bad thing
Yeah.
and feel how your body reacts to it. You're like, oh my gosh, like this is what I was fueling myself with for
Yeah.
years and years and years. And I said my job was hard and I was tired and I was, I couldn't do this, couldn't do that, couldn't do the other. And it was the food. It was the
food,
fuel.
absolutely.
Yeah, that I was putting. I tell people all the time, go fill your car up with water or,
Right.
A fuel that it does not use
Yeah.
or it does not like. And it's not going to run really well.
Yeah.
And the other, taking care of yourself, that's, we say that's the maintenance portion of that. You're going to take your car and get that oil changed 3,000 to 5,000 miles, whatever, and then we don't take care of ourselves.
Right.
We won't give ourselves that hour a day to take care of ourselves and get better and mentally and physically as well.
Yeah, and I tell a lot of moms too, and sometimes they take it well and sometimes they don't, but I like to be honest, and I always say, do you want your kid to come home and go straight to their bedroom and veg out on their iPads or their computers, or Memphis loves her iPod? Like, I don't want that. I mean, I have my kids in tumbling and gymnastics and soccer and all those things. And a lot of parents do. Like, we want our kids to be healthy and fit and happy. And I'm definitely not going to stop and get them a milkshake on the way home every single day and french fries and chicken nuggets. So if I won't feed my kids that and I don't allow my kids to act that way, then we don't do it.
Yeah.
And I think that in their mind, that sets up for something, because there's tons of parents who don't allow their kids to be lazy or to eat bad, but they allow themselves to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that you have so much like power. We have the internet, like, and there's a lot of like terrible information out there.
Yeah.
But like, if you can sort through that, our parents, I don't feel like had the knowledge. I don't feel like our parents didn't care about us.
No.
We just didn't know.
Right.
We didn't know how bad it was. Their parents didn't know how bad cigarettes were.
Right.
So like, our parents didn't know. They weren't able to provide us with the knowledge. But you have that ability. And my brother, you know, he's got 2 young kids, very young kids, like 2 and 4 months.
Yeah.
He's got all the power in the world to teach them how to eat healthy, you know, how to exercise, how to take care of themselves, and all that information. I mean, you're setting an amazing example if you're living that lifestyle,
Right.
like you are.
Yeah, and I always say there's a plague, and I mean that generously, I guess, but it's plagued generation after generation of just bad behavior and bad habits, and that's with image, self-esteem. Because like you said, my parents never talked about that. I don't ever remember my mom saying, "You're beautiful no matter what." But I remember her always dieting or always being tan, and I remember her being vain, but I don't think she did that as a disservice, or that she meant to. It's just, it was never talked about. Like, women needed to be pretty, and that was it. And I feel like those aspects were passed on to us. And I hope it stops. Like, I definitely don't want my girls to ever feel that way, ever. But I think it's something that's not been talked about. And, like home cooking, that was just the way my mom cooked. And that's the way she taught me to cook. And but it's got to stop at some point where we're just not ever going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I dealt with it on different aspects, yeah, for sure. I was always big. So, there was the yo-yoing of, well, we'll eat healthy for a little while, and then, or knowing what healthy was. My dad was bigger, dealt with that, throughout the family, and trying to figure out what was healthy or stay on a healthy diet. We yo-yoed through that, and I don't think it was a lack of care. I don't think it was a lack of effort.
Right.
We just didn't have exposure to the knowledge, the information, and the internet, which, again, there's just a ton of bad stuff out there, a ton of misinformation, a ton of people trying to sell you the next thing, which kind of puts a hampering on the whole industry in fitness and health and all that. But if you can weed through that and find the people that really are trying to do that, trying to make a difference, trying to make a change, like your page, and like I truly believe you are doing, you can find a lot of great benefit out there. It doesn't cost a fortune.
Right.
It's not a exclusive place that only certain people are allowed to be a part of. I had that in my mind for a long time, and I dealt with that in a personal. I'm just not good enough, right? Like, I'm just not meant to be that way. I'm not athletic. I'm not fit. I never will be. I just kind of beat myself up on that. And that's the thing that you're just tearing the wall down on, is that, look, this is not an exclusive club of people that are allowed to be fit, allowed to care about themselves, allowed to take care of themselves, give themselves that hour per day, give themselves better food, better nutrition, that kind of stuff, and give that to their kids as well, and setting that example. It's an amazing thing that page is doing. And kind of to tie all this back together, we're starting a CrossFit gym. That's where this kind of podcast came about. The CrossFit gym, we understand, is not going to accommodate everybody. And our goal is to reach as many people in the health and fitness world as possible. We understand that that's not going to be because every one of those people walk through our door and sign up and pay for a membership at our gym. And we're okay with that. Our CrossFit gym will be for certain people, but for the people that financially or due to time management or anything like that cannot come into a CrossFit gym, or just say, hey, absolutely not, CrossFit's not for me, tie into that. You've had a brain surgery. Heavy weights, no go right now. Like you're building up strength in that, getting into the weights a little bit. So CrossFit, not your wheelhouse right this minute. Like,
that's my goal, though.
Yeah, getting there,
Right.
absolutely. But people are going to have those barriers, right?
Right.
And what you're doing, we want to bring light to, because even if it's just to get people started and to make them realize that, okay, maybe I can do this. Or if it's to take them from start to finish,
right.
you have all the tools, all the knowledge, the information to get them where they're going. And all they really got to do is just reach out to you.
Right.
I mean,
Try.
yeah, just give some
Right.
give some effort. It's amazing. Again, hashtag hustleforhappy at rachgoins.fit.
Yep.
Do you want to shout out your personal? It's cool either way if you don't.
Yeah, it's just Racheal Goins on Instagram. So,
Yeah.
and I post a lot about on there, just stories and stuff like that. But I do want to say something about your gym.
Okay.
Just because I think y'all have a little overhead, a little power more, because you are reaching the community, and we're talking about barriers and people wanting to try your gym, which is great. Can people come there like me who don't lift heavy? So I think that needs to be talked about. Like we need to say, hey, you're more than welcome to come to this gym, and it is CrossFit, and there are people being a beast and lifting weights. But there's also form and other factors that come along that you can build up to. Because I know from experience, that's been my restriction. I know you and I have talked about that too. I'm like, I can't come in there. I can't deadlift 250. Like I can't do that.
For sure.
But I hope that you all continue to reach out to people and explain to them that they don't have to be that
Absolutely,
to join your gym.
And that is the big thing. And honestly, like, one of the biggest kind of things about CrossFit, the biggest misconceptions is that you got to be fit to do it.
Right.
You have to be able to meet some kind of standard, lift some certain amount of weight in order to be able to do CrossFit. And we've talked about it too on other podcasts and stuff. Is my 55, 56-year-old mother does CrossFit. My sister does CrossFit. I train almost 70-year-old individual at another gym. And I've trained people in wheelchairs in any walk of life, in decondition to any level, any adaptation. CrossFit is for everyone if coached and trained correctly.
Right.
And our goal is to move you 1% better than you were yesterday, or just a 0.1% better. We just want to get better every single day, and we're going to meet you where you are with any barbell movement, with any gymnastics movement, with any conditioning piece, running, rowing, anything like that. We're going to meet you where you are and hopefully move that needle to that next level. And the thing about CrossFit that is so wonderful is that community, and that community that you're providing for people outside of the box. I absolutely love, because community is one of the things for me that is so big.
Right.
I have a gym at home in my garage. My brother has a gym at home in his garage. I have access to either one. I could go in there any hour of the day and work out, and I promise you that I'm not going to.
Right.
Because the community, to me, is
Right.
what drives me to do it. I love being in the community and having that support system. And if you think when you walk into a CrossFit gym you're going to be judged, or you're going to be kind of cast out because you can't lift heavy or you can't do certain movements, it's absolutely the opposite.
Right.
The more common person that feels cast out in a CrossFit gym is the superhero. Because a lot of the times, and we're going to try to avoid this as well, is a lot of times the guy that's really fit and knows all the movements and can do all the things, he kind of gets shoved over in the corner, and he's over there doing his own thing, and the focus is on the person that needs more help.
Right.
And we're going to try to be really, dynamic. Obviously, we won't be perfect, but we're going to try to do both really, really well, something we're very passionate about. But you don't have to, there's no prerequisite to starting CrossFit. And if coached correctly and done well, it can meet you where you're at and take you to that next level, for sure.
That's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that segue into the CrossFit gym, but definitely wanted to keep the focus on what you're doing, and I'm super passionate about it, and I hope that we can collaborate on some more things
Absolutely.
moving forward. I love your story and love what you're doing, and anything that brings value to our people and your people as well, we want to try to do that.
Hey, I'm Racheal Goins, so thank you for listening listening and watching today, and you can visit my personal Facebook page at Racheal Goins or #hustleforhappy, and on Instagram, rachgoins.fit. Thank you.